Welcome to the blowhole. We're quickly jumping in because our guests, we're having a conversation. Somehow we're talking about altar boys and priests being arrested for touching little boys. This is great. Everybody, welcome Frank. You got to talk into the microphone.
You got it. Hi, guys.
So Frank owns Rust and Gold in Huntington, and the pizzeria 1653.
1653 Pizza Company.
You opened that a couple of years back.
We're 3 years in there.
3 years in. And then you do catering as well.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we have something called the Rolling Gold, which is, it's a mobile beer car. It's a beer truck, I should say. We have a mobile pizza oven, a bar cart. So that's really, we come to you, set up, do anything you need.
That's awesome.
And we're going to get into all that, but let's talk about the priest.
Oh, my God.
Touching that.
This is a fantastic segue right away. This is exactly what I want the identity of the restaurants to be associated with.
Yep, 100%.
Well, we can edit it out. But
No.
Listen.
No, we got to roll with it. Now the lead into this was we were talking about, I think, pepper spray originally.
Yes.
We were talking about deterrence to violence, right?
Yeah.
And I basically had just, I don't have that real issue. My face being a natural deterrent for any sort of female attention.
Oh my God.
And as an example of such, I just said there was an article that just came out yesterday where there was a priest that I was an altar boy that served under that just got discovered to be doing what a lot of priests do. And this is now the third person in my life that I've served under that just took a look at me and was like,
Nope.
And it's, so I don't have to worry. Oh, sorry about the table. Yeah.
I do the same thing.
It's interesting. We went to, where did we go last week? We were at that haunted house at the church.
Oh,
right?
The church.
And
there was nothing done. It was just the church.
It's just a church. It wasn't even.
It was a little weird. So we
there.
go in there, and the people are like, "Please don't touch the actors. Nobody on this property will touch anybody." And I'm like, "Except the priest." And everybody laughed,
literally. I mean, funny because I was in church yesterday too, and
you were in church.
Yeah. So
Get
Andrew.
the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
That's what she calls beach pub.
Yeah, that's what I call beach pub. No. But as I'm in there, me and my friend, we don't really go. We went for Andrew's mother. The place started to creak, and we're like, is this place falling in? The devil coming out and being like, you people don't even come here ever. I was we were looking around the fuck, maybe the heat turned on, but the whole place was and I'm like, okay, this ain't right.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I don't think I should be in a church ever or anywhere. I thought it was my bad.
I was afraid I'm gonna light on fire if I go in there.
Yeah, I didn't know. I was not sure. I was no. Funny.
Well, So Frank, it's nice to meet you, man.
Nice
I never had a chance to meet you. And I got to be honest with you, amongst the industry, you are held in the highest regards from people. And although I've never met you, I've been in this miserable industry my entire life. And when you look at other operators, you know who's good. And I can tell you're on top of the current trends. Your food looks great. Your social media is fantastic. And I got to congratulate you, man.
Thank you. That's very nice of you.
It's nice to meet you. So,
awesome.
What the fuck possessed you to get into this business? Why would you do such a thing?
People talk to me about this a lot, and I don't really have an answer. I didn't have a moment in my life where I remember being like, this is something that I'm going to choose.
The altar boy thing wasn't cutting it.
That was it. Yeah, I was like, there's not too much of a good retirement plan here, At the best, I end up in Florida with a guy 40 years older than me and stuff like that. The weather's nice, but everything else around it is just worse things.
Sounds like my uncle.
All I can ever say is that my earliest memories kind of all focused around me being drawn to hospitality in weird different ways. And I'm talking about as a kid, playing Legos. Me and my friends would build a village and stuff like that. The priests weren't there. And I remember specifically, I would always get... I grew up, I had a brother that was 6 years older, so I was always exposed to heavy metal and rock music at an early age. So I was watching a lot of MTV and seeing clubs and things like that. And I would always build whatever it was supposed to be first. So the police station, the car wash, or whatever, I'd look at it for 5 minutes, I'd tear it down, and I'd make it a bar or a club. And my thought was these Lego people have nowhere to go drink. This is the most boring town I've ever been to,
Right.
Weird things like that. Also, at an early age, I served at bingo night at the Catholic school I grew up in. My mother would cook in the kitchen, and I would be a server out on the floor to just hundreds of bingo ladies that all wanted to kill me because I could not get their coffee right. So I don't know if it was a really early boot camp kind of experience where I got the worst of it out of the way. But it's just something always that I've been drawn to. I always get a kick out of just making sure that people feel good, that people are fed, that they got a drink in their hands, I don't know. It may even come from a little bit of insecurity. I feel it a lot of times. I've always been one of those guys where if everyone in the room is laughing, I'm good. If I feel tension in a room or if I feel that someone's uncomfortable, I have to kind of seek it out and figure if there's a way that I can kind of switch the vibe around and stuff. So I think that natural instinct is where a lot of good operators kind of come from, you know?
Yeah, wow.
Sound familiar, honey? I got my wife here again to tase me in case I'm inappropriate. But I do this. It's interesting. I think the people that get into the hospitality industry, there is a little bit of that. It's like when I was younger, I would always throw all like the keg parties. Like I always wanted to gather everybody together.
Make
Yeah.
everyone happy.
Like it's cool, and there's a form of art. And that's the things that I see about your concepts, which I really respect and appreciate, is the detail that you put in to the build outs and the things like that. It's a place that you want to be, and it's entertaining.
It's a lot of
And
fun.
the people, it's like a cultural gathering type of spot that you want to be at. And there's a form of art to that. And you got to feel good about that.
Thank you.
I mean, there's no other fucking high better than when you're an operator to watch people come in and enjoy what you've created for them, right?
Absolutely. You know, and again, this is a group effort. The creativity and the build outs, you know, my two partners are amazing. They both have wives that are amazing and creative. So the input comes from a lot of different places.
You have to say that, don't you?
Absolutely not. By the way, their names are. You know, like, so it's always a group effort. And of course, you can't do it without a team. And I've been very lucky along the way. Yes, definitely. I love staying on top of the trends. I love staying current, but it's not so much, it doesn't feel like a task, as I'm sure it doesn't for you either. I mean, in our downtime, we're always out exploring. We're out checking out new spots. I mean, you're someone that, you know, like just in the nature of what you're doing here in your business, you're always going to be on top of it. You're always going to have your eye on the other guy. And, you know, it doesn't always have to be kind of, you know, like looking at him sideways in a competition. You learn from your peers. You learn from everyone, you know. And I think staying open to learning is kind of what does that. And staying humble too, you know.
This is why it seems that people like you. And I've never met you, but it's like the humility, because our industry is notoriously very competitive. Mm-hmm. And I can speak for myself. When I was younger, I used to be like, fuck that guy over there. Who does he think he is? Blah, blah. And as you get older, you're like, well, you just want everybody to be successful.
Yep.
Blah, blah, blah. But it takes, and it's probably because you're religious, right? You're like a nice person, aren't you?
Not a nice.
He's a good guy. I
I'm
can
cursed
tell.
with being a nice guy, yeah. But I think that you know.
Come on, tell me something bad that you've done.
Oh God, I mean that's there, yeah, 100%.
Is it there?
Yeah, there's a moment of reform, and there's just always looming Catholic guilt, right? Like that's always just over our heads.
Did you guys know each other growing up?
No.
No,
I'm surprised
I grew up in the
didn't.
South Shore, so I grew up in Valley Stream. Grandparents all came here from Italy. My parents were both in East New York. They met each other. My father was a cop in the city. He moved us out here and retired in 1974. I was born in 81. We moved around a lot as a kids. My father went into contracting after the force, so a lot of rebuilding houses, moving every couple of years. I started coming to Huntington for the bars and the restaurants.
Right.
I was living on the South Shore at the time. I was freshly single. My buddy Dan, who now owns a couple of great spots in town, Vauxhall, LC Lane, he is from up here, and I would just come up to hang out with him. You know, I would finish work on a Friday, drive up to Huntington, and stay, you know, a night or two at his house. Eventually, I moved in. A bunch of us got together, and it's been like 11 years now that I moved up here. And it wasn't just the restaurants in the area. Like that's what got me here initially. And then once you discover everything, it's like the people. I mean, there really is something different about this community and the people around here, especially growing up on the South Shore. It's like, although I do miss the bagels. But then you start discovering like the real beauty of the North Shore, which I really had never been kind of like privy to. I mean, look at what you guys get to do every day. I mean, this is breathtaking. This is unbelievable, you know? You got to be like happy about that, right?
So Huntington, because I grew up, I worked at Christopher's in fucking 97. It was fun. We used to go in there. It was like $20 all you could drink like throughout the whole town. You go
That's
any
awesome.
bar in
Wow.
Huntington, $20 and you're fucking partying all night. It was a lot. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm cursing too much.
That was a
I gotta
time.
stop.
That was a time.
But how long has Rust and Gold been there?
8 years now.
8 years. Now, I got to tell you, Huntington is very tough. I don't know how many restaurants there are now. I know there was like 40, 50 years ago, right? There's got to be 60-something restaurants in there. I remember watching Huntington for years, and the reason I never went there is because the rents were high in a lot of areas, but the shelf life was like 5 years. So it's like if you're already going against a high occupancy cost, and we used to get 50% returns on our money, so you get your investment back in 2 years. That shit doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe 4. So if you're going against a 5-year shelf life in Huntington, you're fucked right out of the gate. But the fact that you've actually made it 8 years is one hell of an accomplishment.
Thank you. And I mean, it's the fact that anyone made it through the pandemic is insane. You know.
So what did you do? I mean, I noticed that you have the outdoor dining, which is pretty cool. I like the stuff that you did. I mean, that must have made a huge difference for you.
Absolutely.
The pizzeria with the to-go, right?
Well, we weren't open yet.
You weren't open
We
yet.
signed the lease on that 2 weeks before the shutdown happened. We thought the pizza was going to be a 6-month project. It turned into like a 2.5-year project. And 2 years of that was just us sitting on our hands looking at an empty space because I don't know if you remember, they stopped construction at the time. And then when they finally re-allowed construction, they only allowed one-person teams, and we had 20-foot ceilings. You know, we
fuck,
didn't have
one person in
Wow,
there.
one person,
What's the
laborer.
point?
Yeah,
What would you even get done?
I opened a store 2 months before the pandemic, and I made it through. Thank God I just sold the fucking thing a month ago. I was so
Congratulations,
happy.
man.
Yes,
That's
thank
awesome.
you. Goodbye. Get the fuck out of here. It was wonderful.
Adios.
Happy moment. But it's tough. What are some of the things, I mean, when the pandemic hit, what did you do?
You know, we panicked at first like everybody else. We were lucky in our location. So one of the first things that started happening was once they started allowing drinks to go, we had kind of these impromptu parking lot parties every single day where people would literally show up, get to-go drinks from us. We had kind of like, you know, a distance, like kind of to-go counter.
They
that we
get
set
drunk
up in front,
in the parking lot.
Get drunk in the parking
That
lot.
sounds like so much fun.
And that was it. It was like literally a block party every day for a couple of weeks. Eventually, it became a little bit of an issue. It started going into the night and stuff like that. Which is also when I got my first glimpse into how luxurious like the crappy kids in this town are, because they would show up and drink in their cars, not drink anything that we had. They were just there for the hang.
Yes.
And the next day, I would find the empty bottles. Don
Nice,
Julio,
real nice.
1942, like Clase Azul. I'm like, dude, I'm drinking like Thunderbird and Old English at this age. Like, where are these kids
like,
are
what
like
do you
just sitting
think?
there, like,
Old
like,
English.
They're very
No,
like
they're sitting
top
there like-
We are
shelf
close to
kids.
the same age. That's why I drank like a case of fucking 40s of Old English for my
man.
prom weekend. I also went to jail, but it
Sounds
was,
so good.
I didn't
let's
even go- I didn't even
let's
go
go.
to prom.
After this, we're gonna go get some 40s.
yeah, I
I
don't
didn't
think
go to
my
prom.
wife
Sit in
would
the
like that
stoop.
too much. If I go out, I won't come home for a
Stoop
month.
kid.
I'll be thrown out like Big Ed.
Oh my god. Come on.
So, do you remember during the when we were shut down, and then I think it was like Cinco de Mayo was when we finally reopened for to go,
Yep.
and I had like a little mariachi band standing in front, and the people were just doing drive-by
Little
pickups,
That's so awesome.
and they were lined up down Woodbine Avenue, and because they let people drink, and this is fucking terrible, but you got to do what you got to do. I had Christina cocktail waitressing to the cars. So the
you
people
know
are
what?
waiting 2 hours in line to pick up their food, drinking margaritas while they're
while
driving their
waiting.
cars.
I'm pretty sure it's legal under 50 miles an hour. I read that somewhere.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, you're fine.
There you go.
You're good.
Jen,
That's
is
not
that
the-
legal?
that's
Can
not
you
the
do
lawsuit,
that?
Is it?
She's like, yeah, no, I got the Officer S wife over there. That's funny.
The best thing that happened to us out of the pandemic was the rolling gold and the beer truck. That was kind of a product of the pandemic. So once they allowed, beer to go, everyone kind of took liberties with that, right? There was a lot of gray area. So one of my business partners, Shay, he has a couple of bars on the South Shore that are like beachfront bars. So he has a small Mercedes Metris that already had kind of a beer tap system in it. It was just, taps out of the side. And, it looked like a small Sprinter. It didn't look very fancy, but it was functional. So the idea originally was, let's go around to houses, all these people that are stuck, and we're just going to pour in beers and growlers and fill them up.
That
And we
sounds
did it
great.
for a couple of
That's
days.
cool.
You would see like fathers coming out of their houses like it was kids for Mr. Softy.
Oh, I
like
was
their
like the
face
ice cream
lighting
man.
up. They have cash in their hands. Like
Come on!
their wives are standing on the stairs just looking at them like, just, okay, walk to the curb. That's the stay at the curb. And they would come out. So for a couple of days, we're like, oh my God, this is a business model. It's going to work for us. The second day that we're doing it, we have the truck parked in front of the Rust and Gold. We're unloading it. Now, we have to keep it running in order to keep the beer cold in the back. We leave it alone for 10 minutes while we're inside. A 16-year-old kid jumps in the van, pulls it out of the parking lot, steals it.
Get the fuck out of here.
Out of here.
So he takes it down to Huntington Station, starts ripping through the neighborhood all night, pops all 4 tires, rides the rims down bare, and then eventually leaves it in the parking lot of a school where all night the entire neighborhood just starts coming out and filling up
No,
containers of
what
beer.
the-
So they kicked 3 out of 5 full kegs. And apparently it was like the biggest party that the neighborhood had seen in quite some time.
God.
Let me ask you
Oh
something.
my God.
Honestly,
That is on some shit.
can you even be mad at that?
So
You gotta be impressed.
We all, it's
That's
such
cool.
it's such a crazy mix of emotions because we have the van in 36 hours. We have this brand new business model we think is going to work, gets stolen. Then the very next day we post it. And within an hour, someone calls. They're like, I'm looking at it right now. So we go to the scene. The whole thing happens. The cops, blah, blah, blah. And then to your point, after we get in the car and it's all done, I turn to the guys and I'm like, tell me you wouldn't have been at this van last night if you were like, I was like, that was the coolest thing ever.
Oh my god.
It just wasn't us,
Did you ever find the kid?
Yeah. So he got arrested 2 days later because he beat up and jumped an Uber Eats driver, stole his food, and then the guy fought him enough where he was able to detain him. And when they got him, he had the keys to the truck in his pocket.
He should have stopped while he was ahead because I would have bailed him out of jail and hung out with him. Sounds actually pretty cool.
Sounds like a bad kid.
Damn.
So anyway, so the truck was totaled, but we weren't sure what we were going to do at that point. Obviously insurance was going to cover it, but we didn't know. We were kind of disheartened by the whole thing. And then in the next 48 hours, we got 30 different inquiries for parties. They're like, hey, can you bring the truck here and set up? So we're like, this is something. So we decided to kind of start fleshing it out as a business model. We all kind of agreed to do it. And we're like, let's do it right, though. So we found a 63 Suburban, which is kind of like a big box truck. And that's when we carved it out, got the same gear system in there, and then just started with the rolling gold. So, ended on a high note, but it took a little...
Probably making a killing with it right now.
During the summer when it's in season, it's fantastic, I love catering. To go back to what we said about kind of that feeling, to me, the peak of that kind of feeling that you get and that high that you get is catering or special events like that.
Right.
There's so much at risk and it's so much more nerve wracking. But then the day of, when it's somebody's wedding or just whatever it is, that beautiful occasion, and you pull it off, bottle that and I will never drink alcohol again. I'll just take that. That's a lie. I'm gonna get a drink right after. Yeah.
Were you so you worked in the business before owning? I'm assuming, right? Were you from the kitchen end?
Kitchen end a little bit. I've done some prep work in the kitchen and stuff. It was mostly so I have a background in music. In my early 20s, I was in a band. I went on tour for about 5 or 6 years.
Really?
And so I spent a lot of time in nightclubs and music venues.
What do you play?
Like that. I play guitar.
Nice.
Really badly. And
we should get together.
Yeah.
He plays too, yeah.
I play really badly too.
No way, really?
Yeah, really badly.
Did we just become best friends?
I think we might have. I was never really in a band. Actually, I did a... in ninth grade, we did Alice in Chains, and I had the solo to Junkhead. Yes, that was my big claim to fame.
A Jerry Cantrell solo is not easy to pull off, my friend.
Well, that was actually a pretty easy one, but it was fun.
I'm trying to gas you up.
Wow,
We sounded like shit. Yeah.
So that really got me into the idea of I just found out that I'm built for nightlife. Obviously eventually I gave up on the dream and came home and stuff, but just the schedule and the energy and all of that. And, I wasn't, a lot of times when you're on tour like that, you're just kind of sitting around talking to bartenders, talking to bar managers, talking to promoters and stuff. So I was always just asking a lot of questions, learning kind of the ins and the outs. But it was even really before that. In high school, I was part of something called Special Services, where we basically, I went to Kellenberg. There was a lot of alumni events. So Kellenberg had for no reason just a gigantic kind of commercial kitchen, and I would stay after school on a Friday for the dinners that they would have, and I would go and just help in the kitchen, mostly serving and running and bussing and things like that. But I remember they would always bring the chef in, and I remember he was a young guy and he had the big chef hat back then still, and watching this guy coordinate food for 300 people just blew me away. So that's kind of where I first got hooked. So that combined with then the nightlife aspect of it came together. And then when I stopped touring, I just went right into running a music venue here on Long Island. Then from there, got back into restaurants. And I was working for a restaurant group at the time. Remember when Swallow was still next to the Paramount?
Sure, yeah.
So I was the beverage director for Swallow. And that's when I met my two partners. They both came from various parts of the industry, and we were looking to do something in Huntington. At the time, it was Rookies.
Yep.
Rookies is what it was called.
That's what it was called. Yeah. It was
Yes.
Originally the Docks End in the late 70s.
Was it in a Mexican restaurant at one point?
It was Layla's Santa Fe, yeah.
Right.
So
I remember looking at that place when it was the Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, I think, Michelle that owned that, or maybe Louie went on to do Black and Blue. I forget the lineage there, but I know they were all involved at some point. But we got together. They had already had a lot of success in a lot of other aspects of it. But they kind of wanted a Huntington guy, so I'd already had a good presence in there. I'd been in Huntington for about 4 or 5 years at that point. Swallow was doing fantastic. So we just kind of agreed to give it a shot, and it's been awesome.
It's very impressive.
You guys have took over Huntington. I love it. You and your friends, yeah. They make it a place to go. Like, I just want to go to the Rusting Gold. I don't go anywhere else. Like, if I'm going to go out, like, I just feel like everywhere else is like all these little kids. You have like a great crew of people that go in there. Like,
We try to mix it up, you know?
My age, like, I feel like, you know, at least my age, I'm like not feeling like I'm like 21, like
But how old are you?
36.
See?
Amazing.
So you're a single guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you do the nightlife.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how often are you there?
I'm there most nights.
Really?
Yeah.
Till what time? I mean, you guys have a late night crowd, right?
Yeah, I mean during the week, we make it a point to kind of always responsibly ride that line. You know, we don't stay open until 4 on Fridays and Saturdays. You know, even on our busiest nights, it's a hard last call at 1:30, 1:45 maybe, which is still, you know,
Still
in my opinion, you know, I'm getting everything I need to get out of the night, and I'm saving myself from anything that's going to come in after 2 a.m. You know, it's not like.
Yeah.
Nothing good happens.
Yeah,
No,
you know,
no.
it's not like you know, Mr. Rockefeller's going to walk in at like 2 a.m. like, hello, here's a crisp $100 bill, and I'd like something really easy. You know, it's like just going to be
rolled up.
gremlins, just like
Get them out of here. Let's go.
Right? I mean, listen, I don't do the nightlife. I mean, we're always done here at fucking 10, but like growing up in this industry, there's a lot of things that come with the nightlife, which is not good.
Sure.
And it will derail you as a professional if you partake in it for a long period of time. Now, listen, sure, we're all no virgins around here, but how do you keep yourself from not partaking? And I mean, clearly you got your head on fucking straight because you would not be sustainable in this business.
I have about 10 girls on my phone that'll argue that, but that's okay.
All right, well, then it's very impressive.
First off, also, I don't know if I can continue. I did think this was an all virgin podcast, so I'm just
No,
He's got to go
Thanks,
now.
yeah.
He's got to go. Yeah.
We are
starting to
filthy.
sweat
Go
over
ahead.
here. So I did. I think, again, like just going back to the late night thing, I think it's just something I'm just naturally programmed for. You know, there was a point where I did try to take a break from late night. I was with someone, I was dating someone that was a single mother. It was after the music venue thing. And she's like, listen, you know, we gotta like, you know, and I thought that at that time, I thought that's where my life was headed. So I'm like, cool, I'll try some other aspect. So I dove into loss prevention and analytics. I worked for a company that was kind of like doing like third-party loss prevention for food chains like TGI Fridays and like Jamba Juice and things like that. So I got into it. Ended up being down the road. It's now benefited me a lot because I got to learn a lot of back of house, a lot of, you know, like how to identify patterns and analyze, you know, like transactions, look for sensitive things like that. It's helped me. Unfortunately, it's helped me because we've, you know, down the road you catch people doing some weird stuff sometimes.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I did that for about 3 years. And in 3 years, I could never once in 3 years did waking up at like 7:30 and being in an office at 8:30 feel normal. Like it always was a struggle. It always felt like just, ugh. And, you know, even on the worst days, and I've had some of the worst days in this industry, you know, it still never felt like that. You know, it still always felt like, you know, this is something that we're putting our stamp on. This is kind of our baby. So even if you want to hide from it at 5 o'clock, you're still, you know, like it's better than taking care of someone else's baby, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're in this business and you love it, you're fucking done. You're a lifer.
Yep.
I tried to when Jen and she was a waitress in my first restaurant, and right. I mean that's how we met. Oh. She wouldn't go out with me, so I fired her and married her. But
Find her so she would.
But I tried to leave because I was like, all right, you know what? So I did the commercial banking bullshit, and I sat in the office. You know what I did? I fucking wrote 2 restaurant concepts in the office and shopped investors. That's what I did. I couldn't. I was like, this sucks.
You knew where your head was, yeah.
You know, it's
You
like
knew,
when
yeah.
you like the chaos, but it's fucking chaotic.
And look at where it's brought you.
Yeah.
Look at all the cool stuff it's brought you, man. That's amazing.
Give me some fucked up things that you've seen. You've probably seen some crazy shit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my
yeah. I had a guy die in my lap at Rust.
He what?
Yeah.
Died in your lap?
Yeah, in my, like, literally, so it was, we could edit this out if this is too dark, but.
No, it's, but I mean,
That-
I'm not so sure what's weirder, the fact that a guy was in your lap or he died in your lap.
I wasn't feeding him berries. It wasn't ancient Rome.
Right.
No, I meant like, you know, we were trying to help him. And it was, so it was few years ago, Islanders were in a playoff run. It was a Game 4 overtime win. This gentleman had just had heart surgery like 3 weeks prior to that. He was
Jesus.
not supposed to be doing anything strenuous, but he was such a bad pun, but diehard Islander fan.
Yeah, literally.
Damn.
So he was there, and I'll score. All of a sudden, places going nuts. Like my bartender comes over and he's like, "Hey, there's a guy having a seizure over there." We go over, and this gentleman's on the floor. And so I put his head up. The bartender gets his feet, and then like a bunch of guys start. Like all of a sudden, I think a nurse and an EMT were both there. They're both hammered, so they're both arguing with each other on like what to do for this guy. They're like, "We should do this. We should do this." And I'm like, "Somebody do something for this fucking guy."
Jesus.
But that was it. That was weird. And what's weird about that was, it was, and I don't know if I'll ever feel right about this for the rest of my life, but it was 10 o'clock on a Friday. And, I already had people that were starting to try to come in, and I got my staff together and I'm like, "Guys, how does everyone feel?" And everyone was kind of a little stunned and a little, at that time, I don't think we had known yet, but I had known because I was right there with him. I saw, but everyone else was kind of like, when he left, he still left on a stretcher. They're still working on whatever. And we reopened an hour later, and an hour and a half, we opened an hour later, and a half an hour later, the bar was full, and everyone was just having a great time, and it was a normal Friday night, and I was standing there like, these people have I was watching the people that were standing over where the guy just was, and they're just like taking shots, and it was like so crazy. I don't know. There's a bigger message there, but I'm too dumb to get it.
No, listen, one thing as a professional operator that I made the commitment to myself a very long time ago, that no matter what, you never stop the machine, no matter what. And I'll give you a similar story. When I had Massapequa Park, we had 2 restaurants, and Mercado was 3 months old, and we just had a great Newsday review, and my general manager of that store, he was great dude. He was a playboy. All the girls loved him, and he was dating the general manager of the Zimzari store that was 4 days old, right? And they're in the same parking lot and same shopping center. So I leave that night, and I say goodbye to the kid, and I come back in the morning, and 2 people approach me on the way in there and told me that Patrick, was his name, passed away in a car accident the night before. And
Jesus.
It was fucking awful. And I got to tell you, so it just wiped out everybody. It was just like, and
like zombies, I'm sure.
And like zombies. So we made the decision to open up because they're brand new stores. And then Joan Remnick from Newsday comes into the new store. And, we pulled it off. We got done. Now, I'm going to tell you, when I was done, I fucking broke down, and that was it.
Yeah.
And you have that moment, but we do what we think is the best for everybody in the store. You know what I mean? And the customers, and the show goes on, man. I mean, no matter what, you never stop the machine. So I think you made the right decision. But I will say this one. The guy fucking died at least enjoying what he was doing.
I mean, that guy went out with...
That's cool.
That's it. His last memory is his team with an amazing win,
Yeah, so there you go.
I hope my last memory...
Oh, God.
And I look to my wife again. I'm not even going to go there.
Oh, she don't want to hear.
Many years from now.
Yeah.
Because she's here to police me. And I was going to say how appropriate it would be to say that I would love my last memory to have my beautiful bride in bed with me.
Ooh.
Right?
Like the Titanic type of thing, like those 2
fucking-
people. What what are you?
Exactly.
Oh, when the
So-
water rushes in and they're like, "We're done for."
So as a single guy in the restaurant, you're the owner, you're the guy, you get the fucking chicks clamoring on you.
That's yes, constantly. No, it's really that part of it is not super intentional, I'm definitely have the intention to get married, have a family, but I have to. It's something I struggle with every day because I'm not ready to leave this just yet. Eventually, it's part of the game plan. Absolutely, 100%. I got maybe another, maybe 5-10 years before, I'd like to kind of shift back into more of a, just be able to get home at 5-6 o'clock, get home for dinner and stuff like that. But the right situation will present itself. And I think B, it'll just naturally develop over time work-wise with that balance, you know.
But what's it like as a single? Because we've been together fucking 21 years. And she's looking at me like, oh, why you fucking asking? Yeah, do people want to know what it's like? Because I'm not a single guy who owns a restaurant. I'm the guy that sits up here barefoot with my fucking hairy toes like gripping one another,
it's disgusting.
farting and burping, and just because you know
it
what?
smells in here half the time.
It's
disgusting.
You know what I mean? I'm fucking married. I'm going home to my family.
Teach me.
Yeah, it's actually
How does
refreshing.
one do that?
It's wonderful.
Listen, it's a fantastic opportunity to meet people. Obviously, I love that. I love having that opportunity. But you have to be very, very careful in this day and age as well. I've seen, the creepy bar owner guy. I've seen, you see it all the time, and
My father was.
It's tough enough to navigate dating in this world with this schedule without having to worry about, how fast the reputation of somebody in my position can spread. And while it's very nice that, because of everything that we've built together at Rust and Gold and 6053, that I have a level of notoriety, but that can also work against you, if someone has a bad experience or things just end because they end, now all of a sudden a lot more people are probably going to find out about that as well, which I've had issues with, I have issues navigating that as well. On top of that, it's just the timing, You can't leave a beautiful girl at home 5 nights a week, waiting in an apartment for you to get home at 10 o'clock, if that.
But you've honestly are very calculated and careful how you conduct yourself. Because like I said, I've never met you, but I know of you, and the industry, people in the industry hold you in high regards. I mean,
thank you very much.
Really, you've done a great job in an industry that's not easy, and people love to fucking tear you down too in this business. People are nasty fucks. But I think that those that come after you with negative content and shit like that, it's because they're struggling within.
Yeah. And listen, I'm not impervious. I've gotten hit with it, and I'm sure I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I'm absolutely positive that I'm not. But again, like when you look at everyone around you and you stop treating them like competition and you treat them more of a community, and you realize how much more enriching it is to just talk to each other, share information, share experiences, lie about our numbers all the time, but everything else we just talk. Everything else
just good marketing.
Yeah.
Make shit up. Always inflate it by 20%, so you sound better.
That's
right?
funny. Oh my god.
Well, I'm sure you probably met some pretty cool people, right? Being in the nightlife. I mean, who are some of the cool people that you met?
The coolest thing that I've been able to do with this is kind of like needle my way into meeting a bunch of the Islanders. I'm a huge Islanders fan, growing up, season ticket holder. And through our contacts, our lawyers, Nino Carides, an amazing networking guy, he got us to cater a party at a place called Offsides, which is the project of Rebecca Seidenberg, married to Dennis Seidenberg, legendary New York Islander. So we catered the opening party, and it was like a really nice fashion boutique over in Glen Head. And,
that's cool.
And the whole team was there.
Wow.
So it was just us. It was maybe 50 people in the room, and 30 of them were the Islanders. And this was only a few years ago, so it was still a lot of the active players. Barzal was brand new. And so they came out, and almost all of them were really cool. And a lot of them started coming to the restaurant. We were lucky to have, one of them celebrated their 30th birthday at the restaurant. We closed down, and they had like the whole team there for that. And, I'm still just like standing in a corner, like just handing them an old fashioned, being like, my hero. We've had that. Another cool one was Jimmy Hart, the Mouth of the South.
Fuck yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That was my other thing. I was a dork for
cool.
hockey and for wrestling. And he came out one night, and that guy, his voice, like, there's sometimes when you meet people and their voice is like different, or they playing a character. He's like the same. He's like, hey, my God, and I'm like, oh my God, it was so cool.
I was a wrestling girl myself.
Yeah?
Yep.
Who's your favorite?
Was. I like Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid.
God.
And you were the Chiquita Banana, was your wrestling
Yeah, I was the fruit
persona.
lady. When I'd
the fruit lady.
Me and my brother would fight each other, and I'd be like, I'm the fruit lady with the towel on, like the
That's
Chiquita
a good
Banana.
gig.
And we beat each other up because we thought we were wrestlers. So
we had the wrestlers who were in Billy Corgan's thing on here.
Yes.
Blake Troop.
Yeah,
and
he
he
was
fucking
funny.
knocked
What
me
a
out.
cool-
That was pretty cool.
You deserved it.
Yeah.
Oh, you took a bump from a wrestler?
I did. That was cool.
It was fantastic. You deserved it.
I did. And Rick Allen, I don't know if you know Rick, local guy.
Yeah.
Great dude. He did the show with us. And
Sunny Beach, right?
Sunny
Yep.
Beach.
Yeah.
And
Sunny Beach.
he shared some of the stories, hanging out with Andre the Giant, and I know he's friends with Jimmy Hart, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so cool. He was there that night. Now you just reminded me. He was at that dinner too.
I fucking love wrestling.
Yeah.
It's fucking cool, man.
Yeah,
Did you watch that McMahon documentary?
Yes. Let me ask you a question. And I love that you asked that. Because how brilliant is that guy?
Insane.
The guy's a genius.
100%.
And as a restaurateur, I look at that documentary and I see so many parallels. Because it's like, if you've been around 8 years, you got to reinvent yourself constantly, right? So basically, the last year for us and with this podcast is our interpretation of the attitude era. Yes, that's right.
Oh.
We made a conscious decision to get on the mic and say fucked up, inappropriate shit, and the backlash is not there. However, sometimes you have to make a little bit of noise because controversy is good, right, Jill, our marketing personnel? It's not great for your marriage, of course.
Yeah.
Hi, honey. But
I didn't know we were attitude era. I would have gone overalls, no shirt.
no, we are fucked up over here. And
love
listen, that guy's just brilliant how they've constantly reinvented themselves.
That's a really cool. I never thought to pull that parallel, but that's very interesting, right?
I find it absolutely just interesting as shit watching that guy. And
I
how
figure every new character and every new kind of like pivot that they had as far as direction is the same thing with us. You know, whether it's a new menu item or a new direction or a new style that we're going in or some different entertainment aspects, right? Like,
marketing is marketing in any industry, right? So eventually you're going to run stagnant, you're going to run dry if you're doing the same. You look at people today, and we spoke about this many times on here, and Jill knows this is part of it. Everybody. Well, let's go to the pandemic, right? The people that got shaken out of the industry during the pandemic, I hate to say, were some of the old timers that were unable to go ahead and adopt the online ordering concept, right? I mean, I still have online ordering that has increased 25% for this time of year. Just because of that, this is not, the Whale Tail was not an online ordering type of establishment. This is a destination center, you know what I mean? But still today, yesterday we did 30% of our business was online orders.
Wow.
Because you can go ahead and use those mechanisms that we adopted during the pandemic.
Nice.
Those old timers, like my father and them that grew up in the industry, they have a hard time adapting to that shit, and it absolutely kills them. So now you go into the world of the social media as you go forward, right? And you see, and I commend some of the stuff that you do, and we made the conscious decision about trying to be more comedic and more cultural and more real with the people, as opposed to the same guy that's taking a fucking photograph of a hamburger. Like, what is that doing for you? To scroll past Instagram and there's another photograph of another. I get that you have to have it, but like, if we need to stand out in a world when everything is saturated, I don't care if you gotta say something fucked up.
Just do it.
That's what you got to do.
Nike.
So
100%.
that's really the way. Now, listen, you're going to have to rein it in eventually and come back. And if we make it through the attitude hour, we're definitely going back to the eat your vitamins, say your prayers type of shit. Because we've definitely pissed off a few people. But yes, I see a tremendous parallel in that industry. That guy is a marketing genius. He's brilliant, Vince McMahon.
It's true. And, and that's always the struggle with us, right? It's like we have to find these new approaches. We have to find our way to stay creative. And we have to find a way to also keep ourselves in that process, and make sure like, hey, this still feels like us. This still feels like our identity. But, we have to go beyond what we probably originally thought, we needed to do, especially post-pandemic, So it's a struggle, but at the same time, it's cool, because you get to challenge yourself creatively and you get to really kind of stretch your brain and find new things and see other people doing cool things. And so it's... within struggle, I think you can find a lot of inspiration, right?
So what's next? What do you got on the horizon? With that being said, obviously, this it's fun. You're already in 2025, I'm sure. You're like, what are we doing?
So next up, we are looking forward to just another awesome season with the Rolling Gold next summer. We want to make some bigger pushes there. Start doing some larger. This past summer, we did our first weddings.
Awesome.
So now we're talking about guests of upwards of 200 and stuff. So we grew that capacity. So seeing how that works is something awesome. I'd love to see some more of that. a bunch of us are working on something called the Long Island Pizza Festival. So this is something that's
cool.
an idea that a bunch of us have had for a long time. It's a lot of the other top pizzaiolos from all over the island that do kind of like lean a little bit more towards the artisanal style. We all would get together and go visit each other's restaurants, and they basically had the idea of like, why is nobody really doing this on the island? There's the Pizza Expo in Atlantic City. There's the huge one in Vegas every year. Now Dave Portnoy has the One Bite Festival that they just did their second year. Where's that at? I think Citi Field, right? Long Island's got such a rich, long history of pizza that we need to figure out a way to celebrate it. So the general idea right now is, we're looking for next spring. It's going to be on Long Island. We're going to get, probably 40, 50 of the best pizzerias out there, or, representatives from kind of all the different styles, not just the slice shops, not just the wood burning ones. We have great people on Long Island doing Detroit pizza, some people doing, like they're specializing in thin crust or bar pies, like all these other kinds of styles that are out there, Metro and Taglio, like Roman style. So get it together. Let's spend a day where we're all hanging out, make it kind of like a fun family event for everybody, have a bunch of different aspects to it, and celebrate Long Island pizza. So that's the next focus.
I love that.
That sounds great.
Yeah. That sounds.
I'll be there.
That's absolutely. Yeah. Why do we not have that? That's something I would. That's cool,
that's
man.
cool.
I would love to go to that. You
Oh,
got to
yeah,
get
I
Dave
would be-
Portnoy
Listen,
to come too.
Yeah, and now that they've legalized pot, I'm like just trying to find a way to hang out and like listen to music and eat pizza all day. So it's self-serving
we'll
for me.
introduce him to the Oven Boys.
Oh, you got to meet them.
We
We
have
actually
someone for
we're
you.
doing their show tomorrow night, aren't
Yeah.
we? Yeah.
Yep.
You got to meet these.
You gotta.
We got to
love
hook them up with the oven.
Yep.
They're cool. They
New York pot butter. That's who
yeah.
they really
So
are.
so they cook with like pot butter, and they go to restaurants and they make food and they get fucked up and they hang.
They're
We got to send them to you.
such
Please
cool
tell them that I
guys.
love them.
Yeah, no, it's very cool.
I don't want to
We
move too
will have
fast,
them.
but
Yeah.
I love them so much.
Yeah, they're cool. Yeah, they're cool. They're cool guys.
They got me fucking sued too.
Have you ever thought about now with everything that's emerging in pot of incorporating into a business model somewhere?
I did. I looked into it. I knew my liquor expediter. I don't know if you use Pat DeLuca or anybody
Yep.
like that. Love Pat. So when
Yeah.
I talked to them years ago, and it looked like that the marijuana laws were going to fall under the SLA, right? And so I looked into it, but I'm not a convicted felon, so there is that issue. And
Yeah, that's
Right, no
crazy.
face, no
you
case,
gotta
baby.
be a convicted felon, and then you'll get it.
yes,
Jesus.
and I believe it's a $250,000 bond that you got to put up in order to get the license.
Wow,
So
nice.
it's not as easy as you would think, and you would think that it would be easier for the restaurateurs to go right into it since we work with the ABC laws, and I imagine that they're going to be very similar. But it doesn't seem like that. It seems like, pardon my language, the liberal mentality is we want to right the wrong from convicting the felons by giving them licenses. So, yeah, I don't, the truth of the matter is, as I get older, less is more
For sure.
type of a thing.
Uh-huh.
I'm a little burnt on trying new shit.
Yeah. Pun intended.
You know
It's
what I
probably the
mean?
last new thing you're gonna try. The podcast.
I don't really know how
come
much
on, you
more
do,
there is.
every year you try something new, so stop with the bullshit. Like, I'm gonna push this bar out. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna start the podcast.
Dude, we're fucked up, right? The minds don't stop. For business people. Business people are, and that's what's fun, right? I guess.
Hey, thank
always
God.
thinking.
They're going to stop one day, so let's
Yeah.
Keep
enjoy
thinking.
while we can.
Keep doing it.
Well, I appreciate you coming, man. It's nice
Yeah,
to meet
thanks
you.
so much.
Guys, you guys are awesome. I can't
I
tell you
was,
how much I
uh,
appreciate you having me. This has really
No.
been.
I didn't know what
It's
to
fun.
expect. I'm like, this guy's cool, man. He's
I
covered in
know.
tattoos.
Yeah.
He's got cool businesses.
I
He's
know.
like a restaurant celebrity. Like I'm always
guys
seeing
were
him
meant to
taking
meet.
pictures, and I'm like,
Yeah.
is he gonna be like? Is he gonna be mean? Is he gonna be fun?
Mean.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, mean with the tattoos.
See, I bet if I went back to all those priests now, then I'd show them.
I'd show him the real deal. I can't.
You'd be touching them.
Oh fuck, that's fucked.
What? Was that inappropriate, honey? If I had the dog collar? I don't know.
The
Well,
dog collar,
Frank, thanks
yeah.
for coming, man. Ladies and gentlemen, if you
you.
like what you fucking hear, share, please.
Please.
All right, ladies, thank you very much.
Thank guys.
Bye.